All right, welcome back, class. Here is lesson 2 on my YouTube channel. This lesson is talking about the setting, what I assigned this week, and chapter 2. Uh, I will be doing that next to reading for chapter 2 in the Golden Compass. But first, let's start out with assignment 2. Assignment 2 is about the setting, and I took some feedback from last week that maybe I was asking a little too much out of you. So this week I thought I'd make a little more fun, and I want you guys just to see the setting that's being produced in your book in your own mind. There might be multiple settings, so don't feel free to choose one, but stick to one and describe it. Draw it as best you can. If you're a writer, you can write this out. If you prefer that than drawing it, I have no problem with a one-page write-up of the setting of your place. Include in that write-up also how you know that setting was created that way. What did the author do? Was it a description used, a feeling, a tone? So, for example, for me in the Golden Compass, the setting I chose is a setting down the road that we haven't got to yet. It's a setting that involves Lyra and Yerk Byrnison, a giant polar bear that comes to help her. And usually the polar bear is covered in armor. But in the scene, he carries Lyra over a great hill in the middle of the night without his armor on to a small little cabin at the edge of a lake. And it's midnight, and the only you can see is the glowing of the cabin that has no smoke coming out of it and looks gloomy and dark, and the moonlight's on it. And now, obviously, the author did not draw that picture for me. That was created by the tone, the feeling the author created. So it was middle of the night that they went there. It wasn't a happy feeling when they went there. So when Lyra asked Yerk Byrnison to take her to this place, it was a special request, and it was a bit of a solemn request. It wasn't a request of joy, like, oh, I really want to see something. It was a request like, the lithiometer is telling me that I need to go over there. It doesn't seem like something good, but I know I need to go. And so that's how the scene is created in my mind, by that author creating that coldness, that there's a bit of fear in there for me. There's a bit of what's going to happen over here. It's not like we're going to have a circus and a great clown and a party over there. We're going to have something gloomy and dark. And I don't know what's going to be in that shack, but what's in that shack is something maybe that I don't even want to see, but for some reason I got to go in there and see and go in that shack. And so he creates this atmosphere. He creates this image of my mind of this single solemn shack with no smoke coming out of it, and this giant bear that is unarmored now, that has helped Lyra get there, but Lyra goes in by herself, so she's just kind of making her way into this cabin, unknown what she will find in it, but it's not something pleasant. It's not something, not opening a present for Christmas time, that's for sure. It's more like, what is this behind this door? I gotta find out, though. I'm being drawn to do it, so I gotta find out. And so that's the image that this author was able to create in my mind through the words he did, not through just describing the actual house itself, the shack, but actually by setting up the setting itself, by making it in the middle of the night, by using language that was solemn, that was dark a bit, that was not pleasant or uplifting language maybe you wouldn't want to necessarily hear, but it's part of life and sometimes language that comes our way. And so that is how that author painted that picture in my mind of that scene. And for me, I'm not an author, or I'm not an artist, but I do like to draw, so I do draw. And so this is what I came up with. This was my drawing. It looks even worse actually on television than it does in person. But it shows, you don't see any bright colors in there for me, just a little bit from the sun setting or the never-ending sun in the end. The giant bear, Lyra, just the back of her, you see this tiny shack in the distance. Yeah, it's just setting up a scene. Now, I won't tell you what she finds in the shack because you gotta read it. You gotta keep going to find out about that. But that's the setting that I created, and that's a scene that was painted in my mind by the author. And so I want to see what scene comes into your mind from you when you've started to read your first book here. You should be, a few chapters in now, so you're kind of getting into it. But what is a setting that sticks out in your mind and then draw that setting, and then tell me how you came to the conclusion that that was the setting that got in your mind. What led you to believe that? Was it a feeling, a description that you were given? Whatever tidbits of information you can have. So in the assignment itself, there are 3 clues I ask for, and the same could be asked for or when you draw it out. So give me just 3 reasons of why you think that setting was created the way it was. So for me, what did Philip Pullman do, the author of the Golden Compass, to create this? Well, he first created a feeling of darkness, so it was done in the middle of the night. He also created a feeling of like solemnness or like loneliness, like we have to do this together, because Lyra asks Yorick by Ernest and the Bear to do it in the middle of the night without anyone else knowing, because only he could take her there and back without anyone knowing. So it's a bit of a single individual task that she has to do. And that's also painted in that picture there. You see that cabin that's lonely, it's by itself. And then also just the descriptive words, which obviously play a big part. So he sets that scene up, and then when he gets to the scene, he paints this picture of when they come over a hilltop. He then like lays out a description of what he sees, and it's just everything's lit up by the moonlight. There's a pond, and at the edge of the pond is a solemn little cabin, and the cabin is dark and gloomy, and there is no window, or there's very few windows. There's no smoke out of the chimney. So he's using descriptive words to paint the picture of this place being cold, being like, unpleasant. All those words that it conjures up, and then that's the setting that it created for me at that time. He creates many settings in that book, so that's only one setting he's created, but that's the setting I chose, I was drawn to, and those are the 3 reasons I came up with, the clues that created that setting for me. So I will let you now go out and do that on your own. Now, for my paper bag method, to see how that's going, all I've done is I've now glued the setting onto the paper bag. So on my paper bag method, I have on one side my setting, and on the other side I have my character wheel. And maybe I'm getting ahead for some people, but if you're the same way as me, then you also might, as you walk around your house or as you see things, you might find objects that represent things in your book. So while I was walking around, what I noticed is I have my son's been playing with a set of keys. And he's been playing with them for about a week now, or ever since I started kind of doing the Golden Compass, a couple weeks. And I found that was a very fitting symbol, these keys, for the book itself. I feel that the book itself provides a key or keys itself for how to live life, for how to, live your own life while at the same time balancing the needs of authority and what others are expecting of you. So I think this is a bit of a coming-of-age book. I know I read it later in life, so after I'd kind of come to age, but it still was useful in that sense for me too, I found. That's what I'm going to now take my paper bag, and I put these keys inside it. And I have now my first object out of the 5 that I'm going to include in it on my paper bag method. And when I come and talk about it at the end, now I'm just already almost there. So those of you that have one object and have 2 sides of your thing done, we're pretty much halfway done the paper bag method. Those of you that aren't quite there yet, you can see how you'll be able to catch up and be able to do this relatively easily in a day to be at us. Because at the end of the day, what I'd like to see is all of us doing little 3 to 5 minute videos showing our paper bags, the pictures, the character wheels, or whatever else we've chosen to put on our paper bags. And then talking about the objects inside of them. That's what I hope we get everyone sharing those. So we're well on our way. All right, thank you for joining for this one. Now immediately I will go and post the reading of Chapter 2 in the Golden Compass. And in that video also we'll talk about setting and the setting that is done in Chapter 2 and how that works. So those of you that might be a little confused on what I'm asking for setting or want just some more information on setting, you'll also get it in that reading of Chapter 2 of the Golden Compass. Thank you, and I will see you soon.